In May, not one illegal alien was released into the United States. So, Mr. Naurista, do you consider that to be a successful month?
Yeah.
Good.
Yes.
Good. I'm always looking for accommodation and comedy, so we have some comedy right there.
I think we have more than that,
So,
sir.
I don't know. We'll find out. The most recent Congressional Border Security Caucus, we had the ICE director, acting ICE director, Mr. Todd Lyons, come in. Mr. Lyons was describing visa overstays. So I would ask the panel, are you all familiar with the term visa overstays, Mr. Brown? You need to answer it out loud. Yeah, this is like a court law. You got to answer it out loud.
Very familiar.
Okay, Mr. Naurista?
Yes.
Mr. Hankinson?
Yes.
And Ms. Vaughn?
Yes.
So let's talk about one visa overstay. I'm thinking of the Egyptian fellow who went on a rampage, an anti-Semitic rampage, and attacked people in Boulder, Colorado. Did you know that he was a visa overstay, Mrs. Vaughn?
Yes.
And what type of visa did he have before he overstayed?
I don't think I have seen it confirmed, but I believe it was a visitor visa, B1, B2.
That's what's been reported anyways, that it was a visitor visa. And how many, Mr. Hankinson, how many visa overstays are there in the country right now, roughly? Microphone.
Maybe 500,000 a year, total overstays, but not all of those are permanent. The figures are a bit difficult to parse.
Okay, so when we look at visa overstays, I want to go back here now to Mrs. Vaughn for a sec. Khalid Sheikh Mohammed, the architect of the 9/11 attack, said that marriage fraud is a, quote, fantastic mechanism for terrorist operatives to acquire valid documents, close quote. But rather than you, will go, Mr. Brown. Do you agree with that?
Absolutely.
And can you've given in your opening statement, you talked about how marriage fraud enterprises work. How would you describe DHS's process for detecting marriage fraud, Mr. Brown? Do they do that? Can they do that?
Their process is virtually non-existent. When I refer to the deliberate dismantling of anti-fraud safeguards, this is a great example. For example, under the last administration, one of the key fraud safeguards that Congress enacted in the Immigration Marriage Fraud Amendments Act of 1986 was interviews. They started waiving all the interviews. When our clients reported fraud, you know what they got back? Silence, nothing. Yeah. And I want to make this point. We have obtained internal data from USCIS. And from 2016 to 2019, a little subset, you know what their fraud denial rate was for the marriage-based cases? 0%, rounded to the nearest whole number. This is not accidental. Something is deeply, deeply wrong with our immigration system. And there's a lot of innocent Americans who are suffering.
Thank you for that. Mr. Hankinson, what's the process like for vetting student visa applicants?
Well, it's as good as we can make it. The interviews take just a couple of minutes, and most of the information that they provide can't be immediately verified. So we probably get it right most of the time.
So we have the acting ICE director told us the other day that in re-looking at some of these student visas, they had a student from China who was entering his 13th year of a baccalaureate degree program for a bachelor's degree. That seems, I don't know. I've put kids through college, and thank goodness none of them ever took 13 years to get through college. And if Mrs. Vaughn, if a student commits a crime or otherwise does something that would disqualify them for continuing on the student visa, how does that get reported to ICE or the school?
Well, if they are arrested for a state or local crime, ICE will get that information through the Secure Communities program, but ICE is not necessarily going to prioritize it because that, as a student visa holder, they are entitled to more due process than, for example, someone who's in the country illegally and commits the same crime.
So what the director told us is that it's not often that they're notified, and the school is rarely notified as well.
Yeah, the school wouldn't necessarily be notified.
So as my time expires, I would point out to my committee members that there's been some suggestions by Mr. Brown, Mr. Hankins, and Mrs. Vaughn on some ways to fix the visa system. I think it's worth reviewing. And then I've got a couple of unanimous consents. This one's called What We Know About the Visa Obtained by an Egyptian Man Who Injured a Dozen People in Colorado. Another one by Mr. Hankinson, actually. Commentary on the borders, on border security, and then a letter that we sent to Secretary Mayorkas just a few months ago asking for information about marriage fraud with regard to visa status.
Without objection.